So the first thing is we actually look up. Some of you are going, where do I write this in on my notes right now? Just the white space. This is the white space part. We look up, like people always say, they give this advice, be in the moment. Just be in the moment, dude. Be in the moment. I don't know if that's good advice. First of all, whenever I find myself just being in the moment, I'm usually walking into a room and going, why did I come in here? I can't remember why I came in here. Maybe instead of being in this moment in our world, we ought to be in that moment in the next world. Maybe we ought to look up and realize this is a small, fleeting moment. And that's glory. That's what we're intended for. So he says, yeah, you're suffering, but you have glory in store for you. We know that the whole creation has been groaning, that's suffering, as in the pains of childbirth. Way to go for the coup de grace right there, the Apostle Paul. He's like, how can I describe the suffering that we're currently in? How about labor and delivery? Boom, every mom knows what he's talking about. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who are the first fruits of the Spirit. In other words, we're the vanguard, we're beginning, but God's got a plan to get a lot of other people into glory. We groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our, if I had a mic, I'd drop it right now, adoption. This is the second hope. Okay, so the first hope is we're going to glory. The second hope is that we're children. Remember that? What kind of children are we? We're adopted children. Now, to my ear, when I first started studying this way back then, I go, why adopted? Why adopted? It feels more edifying in my bias against adoption to be God's natural born son. I don't want to be adopted. I want to be the natural. And that just reveals in me how misunderstanding I have about how precious, amazing, incredible adoption is. If you've been adopted or you've adopted someone, you understand this concept immediately better than most people. First thing we got to do is we got to understand the difference between adoption then and adoption now. Adoption now is we say, okay, there's a child, their biological parents are unable to care for them. We want to put them into a home where they'll be cared for by other parents, and those parents will become their real parents. And sometimes it's an open adoption where the biological parents and the adoptive parents work together. Sometimes it's not, and that's our adoption. Adoption in Rome wasn't that way at all. First of all, adoption in Rome almost never happened outside the nobility class. If you weren't a noble, if you weren't a royal, you weren't adopting or being adopted. Most children that were unwanted were abandoned. They were not adopted because adoption was very, very expensive. And adoption had a purpose then that it doesn't have now. The purpose of adoption way back then was that the nobility would find a proper heir. So what would happen? 3 different Caesars, this is true, by the way. Their natural father was not the Caesar. They were adopted by a Caesar in their 20s to become the Caesar and become the heir of Rome. So what that would happen is a nobleman would say, I have no heir. I have no one that I can trust to take all my titles and all my possessions. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go find a person and pay the price that they would be fully and totally, legally my heir. They will have all the titles and all the possessions that I own. My friend, God says he deliberately chose you to be the heir to his throne, to be nobility, to be his child. You're adopted into sonship and fully redeemed.